The jungle was alive with sound. Birds sang high in the trees, insects buzzed in swarms, and the air carried the heavy breath of heat and rain. A small team of explorers moved slowly through the green maze, their boots sinking into the damp earth. Each step took them closer to a place hidden for centuries, a place spoken of in whispers by the local villagers. At the front of the group walked Raul, a man who had spent years studying ancient Mayan ruins. His clothes were worn, his face marked by sun and time, but his eyes were full of quiet fire. He carried no gold in his pockets and no interest in riches. What drove him was the promise of stories carved in stone, the voices of the past that still waited in silence. Behind him came Lena, a young archaeologist whose notebook was already filled with sketches and careful notes. She looked around at the thick vines and roots, always alert for the shapes of walls or carvings that nature might be hiding. To her, the jungle was not only alive with animals but with history. Every tree might be standing on top of something forgotten. They were not alone. 2 workers from the nearby village guided them, using machetes to cut the path. The men moved with ease, as if the jungle respected their steps. They spoke little, but they carried knowledge older than any book, knowledge of paths, rivers, and caves where the world still held secrets. After hours of walking, the team came to a cliffside covered in moss. At first it seemed nothing more than stone, but Raul noticed straight lines beneath the green surface. He pressed his hand against the wall and felt a pattern under his palm. He called the others closer. With brushes and knives, they scraped away layers of moss and soil until a doorway revealed itself, framed by carvings of queens in feathered crowns. Their faces were calm, their eyes closed as if in sleep. Lena traced the figures with her fingers. "Silent queens," she whispered. "Guardians," the villagers nodded but did not speak. Raul felt a strange pull in his chest, as if the queens were waiting for someone to hear them again. With care, they pushed against the stone door. To their surprise, it moved easily, as though it had been waiting to open. The chamber inside was dark and cool. The air smelled of earth and time. Torches lit the walls, revealing murals painted in deep reds and golds. Scenes of queens seated on thrones, holding scepters of shining metal, filled the chamber. At the center stood a raised platform where gold objects glittered faintly. But more than the gold, it was something else that drew their eyes. A crystal tall as a man stood in the middle of the platform. Its surface was smooth and clear, yet it glowed with a light that came from within. The glow pulsed slowly like the beating of a heart. The group froze. The workers crossed themselves in silence. Lena felt her skin prickle as if unseen eyes were upon her. Raul stepped closer, unable to look away. He had seen many ruins, many treasures buried under time, but nothing like this. "This is not just Mayan," Raul said softly. "This is something more." The crystal gave a faint hum, so soft at first it could have been mistaken for wind. Then it grew stronger, filling the chamber with a vibration that seemed to pass through their bones. The torches flickered, and the golden crowns carved on the walls seemed to shine brighter in the glow. Lena clutched her notebook. "It is alive," she said, her voice trembling. The villagers backed away, whispering prayers under their breath. But Raul stood firm. He did not see danger in the light. He saw a story waiting to be heard. The hum rose, and the crystal projected faint shapes into the air. At first they were unclear, like smoke curling in the dark. Then faces formed, faces of queens with the same crowns carved on the walls. Their eyes remained closed, but their presence filled the room. The golden crowns on their heads gleamed as if drawing light from the crystal itself. Lena gasped. "It is them, the queens." The figures did not move, but the humming grew steady, as if it were a voice too old for words. The explorers felt the chamber speaking in silence, carrying a message across time. The gold was not only treasure. It was part of something larger, something built to endure when voices had faded. Raul bowed his head, not in fear, but in respect. He knew they had opened more than a tomb. They had opened a door between the past and something greater. Outside, the jungle remained the same, green and endless, unaware of the light that now glowed inside the stone. But inside the chamber, the silence of the queens had ended. The explorers stood in awe, their hearts racing, their lives already changed by what they had seen. The chamber was not empty. It was awake. The chamber glowed faintly as the crystal continued to hum. The faces of the queens hovered in the air, their eyes closed but their presence strong. Raoul stood at the front, his breath steady though his heart raced. Lena wrote quickly in her notebook, her hand almost trembling, but she did not want to miss a single detail. The villagers stayed near the doorway, watching with wide eyes as if ready to flee at any moment. The light from the crystal grew brighter and then dimmed again, like the rhythm of breathing. Raoul stepped closer and placed his hand on the platform. The surface was smooth and warm, not like stone but like something alive. At the touch, the humming changed. A pulse of light moved through the chamber walls and the murals seemed to shift. The painted queens now shone as though their golden crowns were freshly polished. Lena whispered, "It is reacting to us." Raoul nodded. "It is listening." The crystal released another wave of light, and this time the shapes in the air grew clearer. The queens lifted their heads slowly, though their eyes remained closed. Their crowns glowed brighter and their forms turned golden as if woven from sunlight. Then a soft voice filled the chamber, not spoken in words but in sound and meaning that touched the heart directly. The explorers felt the voice inside their minds. It was calm and firm, ancient yet alive. The queens did not speak in any language they knew, but the meaning was clear. "We are watching. We are guarding. We are waiting." Lena's hand shook as she wrote the words. "They know we are here," she said. Raoul kept his head bowed. He did not feel fear. He felt respect, as though he were standing before rulers of a kingdom not lost but hidden. The villagers, however, whispered nervously. One of them, an older man named Matteo, shook his head. "This place is not for us. This place belongs to the queens. We should leave." But Raoul raised a hand. If it was meant to remain sealed, why would the door open so easily? Why would the crystal awaken now? No, this chamber wants to be found. Matteo looked uncertain but stayed near the doorway. The other villager crossed himself and stayed silent. The crystal pulsed again, brighter now, and beams of light stretched across the chamber like threads. The beams connected the golden objects on the platform. Crowns, necklaces, and scepters began to glow with the same rhythm as the crystal. It was as if the gold itself was part of the device. Lena stepped forward, her eyes wide. "The gold is not just treasure. It is technology." Raoul touched one of the glowing crowns gently. The air vibrated and a sudden vision filled his mind. He saw the queens standing not in temples of stone but beneath a sky full of stars. They were speaking to figures taller than any human. Figures with long arms and shining eyes. The gold crowns acted like bridges, carrying voices across the sky. The vision ended as quickly as it began. Raoul staggered back, his breath heavy. "They were speaking to others," he whispered. "Not gods, not spirits. To visitors from the stars." Lena stared at him. "You saw it too?" He nodded. His hands trembled, but his eyes burned with wonder. The queen's voices filled the chamber once more. This time the sound was stronger, clearer. It carried both warning and invitation. The meaning pressed into their minds. Those who listen with respect may enter deeper. Those who seek only gold will be cast out. The crystal's light shifted, revealing a narrow passage at the far end of the chamber. The stone wall had moved, opening into a corridor lined with carvings. Strange symbols glowed faintly along the sides, symbols not seen in any Mayan script before. Raoul stepped toward the passage, but Matteo held up a hand. "Do not go farther. This is dangerous." Raoul looked back. "Dangerous, yes. But this is history waiting to be known. If we turn back now, it may close again forever. We cannot walk away." Lena closed her notebook and stood at his side. "I am coming with you." The villagers exchanged nervous glances but did not follow. Raoul and Lena lit their torches and entered the corridor. The air was cool and carried a faint metallic scent. The walls were smooth, not carved by human hands but shaped with precision as if by machines. As they walked, the glowing symbols shifted in color, first blue, then gold, as though responding to their presence. The corridor led to another chamber, larger than the first. Here the walls were covered not with murals of queens, but with star maps. Thousands of points of light spread across the surface, connected by fine golden lines. Some stars were circled and others shone brighter than the rest. Lena gasped. "It is a map of the sky." Raoul touched one of the glowing stars. The crystal in the first chamber pulsed again in answer, sending light through the corridors. A new vision filled the room. This time it was not of queens or temples, but of ships. Great vessels of light moving between stars, carrying knowledge and gifts. The vision faded, leaving silence behind. Raoul turned to Lena, his face pale but determined. "This chamber is not just a tomb. It is a message. The queens were not only rulers of the land, they were guardians of something greater, something given to them from beyond. Lena whispered, "And now, they are giving it to us." The humming of the crystal deepened, and the walls shook gently. It was clear that the chamber was awake, and it had chosen to reveal its secrets to those who came with open minds. Raoul and Lena looked at each other, both aware that they had stepped into a story far larger than themselves. They were no longer just explorers of the past. They had become witnesses to a connection between Earth and the stars, and the awakening had only begun. The air inside the chamber felt heavier as Raoul and Lena stood before the glowing star map. The crystal hummed steadily in the distance, its rhythm like the heartbeat of the hidden world. They knew they had uncovered something extraordinary, but they also knew that discoveries like this never stayed secret for long. For 2 days, the team camped near the chamber. Raoul and Lena worked without pause, recording every carving, every glowing line of the map. They took no gold for themselves, though piles of shining objects rested on the platform. They touched nothing with greed, knowing the queens had warned them. The villagers stayed close to the camp but refused to sleep near the crystal. Their whispers carried fear, as though the silent queens might rise in the night. On the 3rd morning, the jungle's peace broke. The sound of engines roared through the trees. A group of men arrived, wearing dark uniforms and carrying crates of equipment. At their head was a man named Vargas, tall and sharp-eyed, with a smile that never reached his eyes. He introduced himself as a historian, but Raoul could see from the polished boots and the armed guards that Vargas was something else. "We heard of your discovery," Vargas said smoothly, shaking Raoul's hand with a grip too strong. "Such treasures cannot be left in the hands of so few. They must be studied by experts." Raoul held his ground. "This is not about treasure. This is history. This is something far greater." Vargas's smile widened. "Of course. And history belongs to the world. Do not worry, my team will handle everything." The guards moved toward the chamber without waiting for permission. Lena stepped forward quickly. "Do not touch the gold. It is not what you think." But Vargas laughed. "Gold is gold, young lady, and gold belongs to those who can claim it." Inside the chamber, the guards' torches shone against the murals. They reached for the crowns and necklaces. The moment their hands brushed the gold, the crystal flared with sudden light. A sharp hum filled the room, rising like a storm. The air vibrated and a wave of force burst outward. The guards stumbled back, clutching their ears. Their torches flickered and died. The villagers cried out in fear. Raoul and Lena ran into the chamber. The crystal now glowed so brightly that it lit every corner of the walls. The faces of the queens appeared once more, their eyes still closed but their presence heavy with judgment. The guards tried again, pulling at the crowns. This time the floor shook violently. A blast of wind knocked them to the ground. One man dropped his weapon as the light from the crystal wrapped around him like fire. He screamed and crawled away, eyes wide with terror. Vargas stepped back, his face pale but stubborn. "What is this trickery?" he demanded. Raoul shouted above the hum, "It is no trick. The chamber will not allow greed." "It warned us." Lena pointed at the glowing crystal. "You must leave. This place will not accept you." But Vargas's pride was stronger than his fear. He ordered 2 guards to force the gold from the platform. The moment they touched it, the chamber struck again. This time the murals themselves came alive. Golden lines spread across the walls, forming shapes like shields. The queen's crowns shone like suns. A booming sound filled the chamber, deep and final. The guards were thrown back by an unseen force, their weapons shattered. The crystal's glow dimmed slowly, but the meaning was clear. The chamber had spoken. Those who came without respect would be cast out. Raoul helped one of the guards to his feet, though the man looked shaken beyond words. Lena faced Vargas with calm eyes. "You see now, you cannot claim this. It was never meant to be taken." Vargas clenched his fists. For a moment he seemed ready to argue, but the fear in his men's eyes was stronger than his pride. He gave a short nod and signaled for retreat. The group left the chamber quickly, their steps unsteady. Vargas turned at the doorway, his eyes still hard. "This is not over," he warned. "Secrets like this cannot be hidden forever." When they were gone, silence returned to the chamber. The light softened and the queen's faces faded once more. Raoul exhaled slowly, his shoulders heavy with relief. Lena placed her hand on the wall, feeling the faint warmth of the golden lines. They tested us, she whispered. They wanted to see how we would react when others came with greed. Raoul nodded. And we passed. But Vargas is right about one thing. Word will spread. Others will come. We must be ready. The villagers stepped closer, no longer whispering but watching with cautious respect. Mateo the elder bowed slightly. The queens chose you. You listened. Perhaps they will protect you as well. Raoul looked at the crystal, its glow steady once more. He felt the truth of Mateo's words. This was no simple discovery. It was a trust, a responsibility passed down from rulers who had guarded it in silence for centuries. He turned to Lena. The passage led us here, but there must be more. If this chamber holds the map, then somewhere deeper lies the reason. We have only touched the beginning. Lena's eyes shone with determination. Then we go deeper. Whatever the queens meant for us to see, we will find it. The crystal hummed softly, almost like approval. The chamber no longer felt like a tomb. It felt like a teacher. And Raoul knew they had been accepted as students. The silent queens had spoken not with words but with power. Their message was clear. Only those who respected the past could inherit its future, and the future was waiting just beyond the next passage. The air in the chamber was calm again after Vargas and his men had left. The golden glow had softened and the crystal pulsed gently as if it were resting. Yet Raoul and Lena felt no peace. They knew what had happened was only the beginning. The queens had shown their power, but they had also revealed something greater. This place was not a tomb. It was a test. Raoul stood before the crystal, his hand on its smooth surface. They are watching us, he said quietly. Every step we take, every choice we make. They are judging whether we are worthy. Lena held her notebook close. She had written every detail of the visions, the warnings, and the map. Now she added her own thought. If this chamber was built to guard knowledge from the stars, then the queens must have created trials to protect it. We have passed the first one by respecting the gold. But what comes next? The crystal seemed to answer her question. Its hum grew stronger, and the passage at the far end of the chamber widened as though inviting them deeper. The wall shifted with a low groan of stone against stone. A faint golden light lit the corridor, beckoning them forward. Raoul took a deep breath. Then we follow. But carefully. They entered the passage together, leaving the villagers to wait near the entrance. The corridor stretched far into the earth, its walls carved smooth. Strange patterns glowed faintly on the stone, symbols unlike any Raoul had studied before. The light was soft yet steady, and it guided their steps like stars leading travelers across the night sky. The corridor opened into a round chamber. At its center stood 3 stone platforms arranged in a circle. Above each platform floated an object suspended in golden light. One was a crown, one was a scepter, and one was a small bowl filled with water that shimmered as if lit from within. Lena whispered, "They are offerings, or trials." As they stepped closer, the crystal's hum echoed faintly from behind them, though they had left it far away. A calm voice filled the chamber, not with words, but with meaning as before. Choose with wisdom. Choose with respect. Only then will the path open. Raoul and Lena looked at each other. Raoul studied the objects carefully. The crown stands for power, the scepter for rule, the bowl for life. Each one holds meaning. Lena frowned in thought. The queens were rulers, but they were also guardians. If this is a test, then the choice must show what we value most. Power or rule may lead to pride, but life carries wisdom. Raoul nodded slowly. Yes, power can corrupt and rule can blind, but the water gives life to all. He reached forward carefully and touched the bowl. The moment his fingers brushed its surface, the chamber filled with light. The water rippled and glowed brighter. The crown and scepter vanished like smoke, and the bowl settled gently into his hands. The queen's voices echoed once more. You have chosen life. You may continue. The walls shifted again, revealing another passage. Raoul and Lena stepped through, carrying the glowing bowl. They felt the warmth of the water spread through their arms as if the chamber itself approved of their choice. The new corridor was narrower, and the air grew cooler. They walked for several minutes before reaching another chamber. This one was square and lined with mirrors, though the mirrors were not glass but polished golden plates. In each reflection, Raoul and Lena saw not themselves but the faces of others. Lena gasped softly. These are the queens. Look at their eyes. The reflection stared back at them. Some looked calm, some stern, some sorrowful. As they watched, the reflections spoke without sound, their lips moving in silence. Raoul felt the meaning press into his heart. The queens were asking not for strength, but for truth. One mirror grew brighter, showing Raoul his own face. But in the reflection, he was crowned and seated on a throne of gold. Around him, people bowed, and yet his eyes were cold. Raoul stepped back in alarm. Lena's reflection shifted too. It showed her with countless books and scrolls, her hands full of knowledge, but her face pale and distant, her heart hidden from others. She closed her notebook quickly, ashamed. The voices of the queens pressed harder. Know your weakness. Admit your truth. Only then may you pass. Raoul bowed his head. I see it. I see pride in myself, the dream of being remembered as the one who found this place. I cannot let it rule me, Lena whispered. I see hunger in myself. The desire to know everything, even at the cost of others. I cannot allow it to blind me. The mirrors dimmed and the golden light grew warm once more. The queen's message softened. Truth accepted. The path is open. Another wall slid aside, revealing the third and final chamber of the trial. Inside, a single stone table stood with space for the glowing bowl to be placed. Raoul set it down gently. The water inside rippled, and from its surface rose an image of the star map again, brighter and larger than before. But this time several stars pulsed with golden light, clearer than they had been in the first chamber. Lena leaned close. These are destinations. The queens left us a guide. They were not guarding treasure. They were guarding knowledge of where to go. Raoul's heart pounded as he stared at the glowing stars. The trials had tested their respect, their choices, and their honesty. Now, they were being rewarded with a clearer path. The queen's voices filled the chamber one final time. You have chosen life. You have spoken truth. The way forward is yours. The star map faded and silence returned. But Raoul and Lena knew the trials were not meant to break them. They were meant to prepare them. The queens had tested their hearts, and now they had accepted them. And beyond these chambers, deeper secrets were waiting to be uncovered. The chamber was still glowing faintly from the trials when Raoul and Lena stepped back into the long corridor. The bowl of light had faded into dust, its task complete. Yet the memory of the visions and the star map remained sharp in their minds. The queens had shown them destinations among the stars. This was no myth. It was a path. As they returned to the main chamber, the villagers waited nervously near the doorway. Matteo approached them, his weathered face full of questions. The walls shook, the light grew stronger. What happened inside? Raoul's voice was calm but heavy with meaning. The queens tested us. They gave us visions, choices, and truth. We passed. And in return, they revealed something greater. Lena added, they left us a map. A path not of roads or rivers, but of stars. They were in contact with others far beyond our world. The villagers exchanged uneasy glances. To them, the queens were legends, rulers of flesh and stone, not keepers of the sky. Matteo bowed his head. If what you say is true, then this place is not only holy. It is dangerous. Others will come again like Vargas. They will not stop. Raoul looked at the crystal which pulsed gently in the center of the platform. Then we must learn all we can before that happens. If the queens left knowledge here, it must be protected. Lena nodded in agreement. The trials were only the beginning. There is more waiting to be uncovered. That night, Raoul and Lena remained in the chamber, sketching the star map on parchment and copying every detail. The golden lines on the walls seemed to glow brighter as if the chamber itself wanted to be remembered. Raoul studied the stars marked in gold, circling them with careful strokes. They were not random. They formed a path, a line across the galaxy like a road of light. At dawn, the crystal flared suddenly. Its glow spread across the walls, igniting hidden carvings that had not been seen before. The murals of the queens now showed them standing beside tall figures not of earth. The figures had long limbs and bright eyes, and their hands reached toward the queens in friendship. Above them, ships shaped like shining birds soared through the sky. Lena's heart raced. It is true. They met others. They were not alone. Raoul touched the carvings, his voice low. The Mayan queens were guardians of a gift. The gold was not wealth. It was a key, a language, a bridge. The crystal projected another vision into the air. This time it was not symbols or trials. It was a clear scene. The queens stood in a chamber like this one, their crowns glowing. Across from them were the tall figures, their voices flowing like music. The queens bowed their heads and the figures placed golden crowns upon them. The meaning was clear. The crowns were tools to connect Earth with the stars. The vision faded, leaving silence. Raoul looked at Lena with awe. They prepared for this. They knew their time would end, but they wanted their legacy to live on, and now we are standing where they once stood. Lena wrote quickly in her notebook. This means the queens saw themselves not just as rulers of people, but as guardians of knowledge. They were chosen to hold the sky path until someone worthy came. Suddenly, a low rumble shook the chamber. The golden lines on the walls shifted, forming new patterns. The star map appeared again, but this time it showed movement. One of the golden stars pulsed brighter than the rest, and a line extended from it down toward Earth. Raoul and Lena stared in silence. The message was unmistakable. The path was not only of the past, it was alive. Something was reaching out again. Lena whispered, "They are calling. Whoever gave this gift so long ago, they are waiting still." The villagers gasped in fear, some backing toward the doorway. Matteo steadied them. The queen spoke of guarding treasures for the future. Perhaps this is what they meant. But we must be careful. The sky is not for everyone to touch. Raoul felt a surge of responsibility. Then it is for those who respect it as the queens respected it. We cannot allow greed to reach this place. We must be ready for what comes next. He turned to Lena. This is more than history now. This is a message across time. The path is waiting and humanity must choose whether to follow. Lena's eyes shone with determination. And we will follow, but wisely. We will learn, and we will guard this knowledge until the world is ready. The crystal pulsed one final time that day, sending a wave of light through the chamber. It was not violent or threatening. It was steady like a heartbeat. A promise. The queens had revealed the path to the stars, but only to those who listened with respect. As Raoul and Lena stood before the glowing crystal, they felt the weight of the choice before them. The revelation was not only about where to go, it was about who they would become. The chamber was no longer silent. It was alive with the voices of queens who had carried their golden crowns not for power, but for a legacy that reached beyond Earth itself. The sky path was real, and it was waiting for humanity to walk it. The chamber of the silent queens glowed faintly as dawn light seeped through cracks high in the stone. Raoul and Lena stood before the crystal, their notes spread across the floor. The star path was burned into their minds, the golden line stretching from Earth to the glowing points in the sky. The discovery filled them with wonder, but also with fear. The villagers whispered among themselves, their voices low. Some wanted to seal the chamber again, to bury the path and never speak of it. Others argued it was a gift, a sign that their ancestors were chosen. Matteo the elder stood quietly, listening to both sides before turning to Raoul and Lena. "This is a heavy burden," Matteo said. "The queens trusted us to guard this knowledge, but you have awakened it. Now the choice is yours. Do you lock it away again, or do you carry it forward?" Raoul felt the weight of his words. He had dedicated his life to uncovering the past, but this was different. This was not only about ruins or carvings. This was about the future of all humanity. "We cannot bury it," Raoul said slowly. "The queens did not keep it hidden for greed. They kept it safe until the right time. If we walk away, the knowledge will be lost forever. Worse, others like Vargas will come again. They will break it open with force. Only by understanding it ourselves can we protect it." Lena agreed, though her heart was torn. "But we must be careful. The knowledge is powerful. If we open it fully, humanity may not be ready. We could bring danger we cannot control." The crystal pulsed as though it had heard them. The glow spread across the walls, forming new images. This time the murals showed two paths. One showed the chamber sealing forever, its light fading until nothing remained. The other showed a starship rising from Earth, its sails made of golden light. The queens' faces appeared again, their eyes closed but their meaning clear. "The choice is yours." The villagers knelt, frightened by the vision. "It is a warning," one of them whispered. "To open the sky is to invite disaster." But Raoul saw something different. "It is not only a warning, it is an invitation. They are asking us to decide if humanity is ready." He turned to Lena, his voice steady. "We have been tested. We chose life. We faced our truth. We passed the trials. They would not have shown us this if they believed we were unworthy." Lena looked at the glowing ship on the wall. Her chest tightened with both fear and hope. "If we accept, then we carry a burden. Once the path is opened, there is no turning back. The chamber shifted. A hidden door opened behind the crystal, revealing a stairway spiraling downward. The air that rose from it was cool and carried a metallic scent. The queen's voices whispered once more in their minds. The heart of the chamber waits. Choose and you shall know. Raul and Lena lit their torches and stepped forward. Mateo tried to follow, but Raul stopped him gently. This path was meant for us. If we fail, then you must seal it. Promise me. Mateo nodded reluctantly, his eyes full of worry. The stairway seemed endless. Each step echoed against the stone as if the chamber itself was listening. Finally, they reached a vast cavern. In the center rested something neither of them expected. A ship. It was not made of stone or wood, but of metal fused with crystal. Its shape was smooth, curved like the body of a bird. Golden lines ran across its surface, glowing softly. The sight stole their breath. This is it, Lena whispered. The legacy. They built it with knowledge from the stars. The ship was silent, yet it seemed alive. As they stepped closer, the golden lines brightened. The hull opened, revealing a passage inside. Raul's hands trembled as he touched the entrance. This is the choice. If we step inside, we accept the Queen's legacy. If we walk away, the chamber will close forever. Lena stared at the glowing doorway. Images of Vargas and his men flashed in her mind. She imagined them returning with more weapons, breaking through the jungle until nothing remained. She also imagined the future, the stars above waiting for humanity to rise and join them. She turned to Raul. We cannot hide. If we do nothing, others will come. Better that we carry this gift with respect than leave it for those who would abuse it. Raul nodded. Then we accept. Together they stepped into the ship. The interior glowed with soft light, the air warm and clean. Panels of crystal lit up as they walked, displaying symbols and maps. The star path appeared again, stretching into the galaxy. The Queen's voices filled the ship clearer than ever before. You have chosen. The legacy is yours. Carry it wisely, for it belongs not to one but to all. Raul and Lena felt the ship hum beneath their feet. It was not only a relic, it was alive, waiting for hands to guide it. They had unlocked the heart of the chamber, and the choice had been made. When they stepped back into the cavern, the villagers were waiting above. The crystal's glow filled the stairway, brighter than ever. Mateo looked down at them, his voice trembling. What did you see? Raul raised his eyes, his voice steady. We saw the future, and we chose it. The chamber pulsed once more like a heartbeat that echoed through the earth. The silent queens had given their final test, and humanity had accepted. Now the path to the stars was open. The cavern glowed with golden light as Raul and Lena stood inside the ancient ship. The walls shimmered softly, and the air thrummed with energy. The ship was not dead. It was waiting. Every line of gold across its surface pulsed like veins carrying life. For a long moment, Raul and Lena simply stood in awe, their hearts heavy with the knowledge of what they had chosen. Outside, the villagers waited nervously at the top of the stairway. Mateo looked down at the two explorers and called, What does it mean? What is this place truly? Raul stepped forward, his voice firm yet calm. It is the inheritance of the queens. They were not only rulers of this land, they were guardians of a path to the stars. And now that legacy has been given to us. The ship stirred as if agreeing with his words. A low hum filled the cavern, steady and strong, and the golden lights brightened. The crystal above in the main chamber answered, its glow spreading down the stairway until the entire cavern was bathed in warmth. The villagers fell silent, no longer whispering in fear but gazing with reverence. Lena placed her hand against the smooth wall of the ship. Images filled her mind, not just visions but instructions. She saw hands of queens touching the same walls, their crowns glowing as they guided the vessel. She saw stars, distant worlds, and knowledge exchanged like gifts. The queens had not built this alone. They had been trusted with it by those from beyond the sky. She turned to Raul, her eyes wide. It is more than a ship. It is a library, a teacher, a bridge. It holds knowledge of the stars. They left it for us, Raul nodded. His voice was steady, though his heart raced. Then this is why we were tested. Not for gold, not for power, but for the strength to carry this flame with care. The ship's interior opened further, revealing seats shaped not for one, but for many. Panels lit up with maps of constellations, their golden lines stretching into infinity. Among them, one star pulsed brighter, the same one shown in the murals. It was a destination, a beacon calling across time. Matteo and the villagers approached the stairway slowly. "Will you go?" he asked. His voice was filled with both fear and hope. Raoul looked at Lena, then back at Matteo. "Not yet. Humanity is not ready to leave this world, not as it is. But when the time comes, this ship will rise. Until then, we will protect it." The villagers bowed their heads. Matteo spoke with quiet strength. "Then you are the new guardians chosen by the queens. We will help you keep it safe." For several days, Raoul and Lena studied the ship. They recorded the maps, traced the golden lines, and copied every symbol into their notebooks. They learned that the ship's heart was powered not by fuel but by light, drawn from the crystal above. They saw that it could fly beyond Earth's sky, but only when awakened fully by those who carried both wisdom and respect. On the fourth night, Raoul dreamed. In his dream, the silent queens stood before him. Their crowns shone brighter than the sun, and their eyes were no longer closed. They looked upon him with calm acceptance. One queen spoke without words. "You have chosen well. The flame is yours to carry. Guard it, share it. When the time is right, light the sky again." When he awoke, he felt no fear, only peace. Lena had dreamed as well, and in her dream, the queens had handed her a scroll of gold that unrolled into the stars. She understood its meaning. Their legacy was knowledge, and knowledge must be shared with wisdom. The next morning, Raoul and Lena sealed the stairway carefully. They covered the entrance with stone and earth so that only those who knew the truth could find it again. The villagers swore to guard the secret, just as their ancestors had done. Before they left, Raoul stood once more before the crystal in the main chamber. He bowed his head. "We accept this inheritance. We will guard it until the world is ready." The crystal pulsed gently like a final blessing. The faces of the queens appeared one last time, their eyes open now, filled with calm light. Their voices echoed through the chamber. "The silence is ended. The flame is yours." With that, the visions faded, and the crystal dimmed to a steady glow. It no longer felt like a test. It felt like a companion, a reminder that the queens had passed on their trust. Raoul and Lena left the jungle with heavy packs of notes and sketches, but their greatest burden was not on paper. It was in their hearts. They carried the knowledge of a path beyond Earth, a gift given across centuries, and the responsibility to guard it. As they walked back through the dense forest, Lena whispered, "The world will never believe us." Raoul smiled faintly. "Not yet, but the day will come when it must, and when that day comes, humanity will look to the stars and the silent queens will not be forgotten." The jungle closed behind them, green and endless. Deep within its heart, the chamber rested once more in silence, its crystal glowing softly, its ship waiting patiently. The inheritance of the queens had passed into human hands. It was no longer just a secret of stone and gold. It was a promise of flame carried forward, waiting for the moment when humanity would rise to meet the stars. And in that promise, the silent queens were no longer silent. They lived on in every heartbeat of the chamber, in every star glowing above, and in the choice Raoul and Lena had made for all humankind.